Welcome to Torah Truth for Us with Linda. Passover, Pesach, a journey from belief into faithfulness. Part 1, the Scriptures and the First Passover. Now he, Yeshua, said to them, "These are my words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that all things which are written about me in the Torah of Moshe and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled." Then he opened their minds to understand the Scriptures, and he said to them, "Thus it is written, that the Messiah should suffer and rise again from the dead the third day, and that repentance for forgiveness of sins should be proclaimed in his name to all the nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things. And behold, I am sending forth the promise of my Father upon you. But you are to stay in the city until you are clothed with power from on high." And he led them out as far as Bethany, and he lifted up his hands and blessed them. Now Yehovah said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month shall be the beginning of months for you. It is to be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, they are each one to take a lamb for themselves, according to the house of the father, a lamb for the household. Now if the household is too small for a lamb, let it come to pass that he and his neighbor nearest to his house are to take one according to the number of persons. According to each man's eating, you are to compute for the lamb. Your lamb shall be an unblemished male, a year old. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel is to kill it at twilight. Moreover, they shall take some of the blood and put it on 2 doorposts and on the lintel upon the houses in which they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh that night, roasted with fire, and they shall eat with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled at all with water, but rather roasted with fire, its head and its legs along with its entrails. You shall not leave any of it until morning, but whatever is left of it until morning you shall burn with fire. Now you shall eat it in this manner: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Passover of Yehovah. For I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and will strike down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am Yehovah. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague will befall you for destruction when I strike the land of Egypt. Now this day will be a memorial to you, and you shall celebrate it, a feast to Yehovah. Throughout your generations you are to celebrate it, an eternal ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, but on the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats anything leavened from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And on the first day you shall have a holy assembly, and holy assembly on the 7th day. No work at all shall be done on them, except what must be eaten, pertaining to every person. That alone may be done by you. In the first, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. 7 days there shall be no leaven found in your houses. For whoever eats what is leavened, that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether an alien or a native of the land. You shall not eat anything leavened. In all your dwelling you shall eat unleavened bread. And then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, Go and take for yourselves lambs according to your families, and slay the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood which is in the basin, and cause to touch some of the blood that is in the basin to the lintel of the 2 doorposts. And none of you shall go outside the door of his house until morning. For Jehovah will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, Jehovah will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to smite. And you shall observe this event as an ordinance for you and your children forever. And it will come about that when you enter the land which Jehovah will give you, as he has spoken, that you shall observe this service. And it will come about, when your children will say to you, What is this service to you? That you will say, It is a Passover service, a sacrifice to Jehovah, because he passed over the houses of the sons of Israel in Egypt when he smote the Egyptians, but delivered our homes. And the people bowed low and worshipped, and the sons of Israel went and did so, just as Jehovah had commanded Moses and Aaron. So they did. Now it came about at midnight that Jehovah struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn cattle. And Pharaoh arose in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was no home where there was not someone dead. Then he called for Moses and Aaron at night, and said, Rise up, get out from among my people, both you and the sons of Israel, and go. Serve Jehovah, as you have said. Take both your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and go, and bless me also. And the Egyptians urged the people to send them out of the land in haste, for they said, We shall all be dead. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls bound up in the clothes on their shoulders. Now the sons of Israel had done according to the word of Moses, for they had requested from the Egyptians, so that they let them have their request. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. Now the sons of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Sukkot, about 600,000 men on foot aside from children. And a mixed multitude also went up with them, and with flocks and herds, a very large number of livestock. And they baked the dough which they had brought out of Egypt into cakes of unleavened bread, for it had not become leavened, since they were driven out of Egypt and could not delay. Nor had they made any provisions for themselves. Now the time of the sons of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came about at the end of the 430 years that it happened on this very day that all the hosts of Jehovah went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night of vigil to be observed for Jehovah, for having brought them out of the land of Egypt. This night is for Jehovah, a vigil to be observed by all the sons of Israel throughout all their generations. And Jehovah said to Moses and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover. No foreigner is to eat of it. A sojourner or a hired servant shall not eat of it. It is to be eaten in a single house. You are not to bring forth any of the flesh outside of the house, nor are you to break any bone of it. All the congregation of Israel are to do this. But if a sojourner sojourns with you and celebrates the Passover to Jehovah, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near to celebrate it. And he shall be like a native of the land. But no uncircumcised person may eat of it. One law shall be to the native as to the sojourner who sojourns among you. And all the sons of Israel did, They did just as Jehovah had commanded Moses and Aaron. And it came about on that same day that Jehovah brought the sons of Israel out of Egypt by their hosts. And Moses said to people, "Remember this day in which you went out from Egypt, from the house of slaves. For by the strength of the hand of Jehovah brought you out from this place. And nothing leavened shall be eaten. On this day, in the month of Abib, you are about to go forth." And it shall be when Jehovah brings you to the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall observe this rite in this month. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a feast to Jehovah. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and nothing leavened shall be seen among you, nor shall any leaven be seen among you in all your borders. And you shall tell your son on that day, saying, "It is because of what Jehovah did for me when I came out of Egypt." And it shall be a sign to you on your hand, and as a reminder on your forehead, that the Torah of Jehovah may be in your mouth. For with a powerful hand Jehovah brought you out of Egypt. Therefore you shall keep this ordinance at its appointed time from days to days. 3 times a year you shall make a feast to me. The feast of unleavened bread you shall observe. For 7 days you are to eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, at the appointed time in the month of Abib. For in it you came out of Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty-handed. Also the feast of the harvest of the first fruits of your laborers, from what you sow in the field. Also the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when you gather in your labors from the field. Jehovah spoke again to Moses, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel, and say to them, the appointed time of Jehovah, which you shall proclaim as holy convocations. My appointed times are these. For 6 days work may be done, but on the 7th day there is a Sabbath of complete rest, a holy convocation. You shall not do any work. It is a Sabbath to Jehovah in all your dwellings. These are the appointed times of Jehovah, holy convocations, which you shall proclaim at the appointed time for them." In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, between the 2 evenings, is the Passover to Jehovah. Then on the 15th day of the same month, there is the feast of unleavened bread to Jehovah. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall not do any laborious work. But for 7 days you shall present an offering by fire to Jehovah. On the 7th day is a holy convocation. You shall not do any laborious work. Thus Jehovah spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the first month of the 2nd year after they had come out of the land of Egypt, saying, "Now let the sons of Israel observe the Passover at its appointed time. On the 14th day of this month, between the 2 evenings, you shall observe it at its appointed time. You shall observe it according to all its statutes and according to all its ordinances." So Moses spoke to the sons of Israel to observe the Passover, and they observed the Passover in the first, on the 14th day of the month, at twilight, in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all Jehovah had commanded Moses. So the sons of Israel did. Observe the month of Abib, and do the Passover to Jehovah your God. For in the month of Abib, Jehovah your God brought you out of Egypt by night. And you shall sacrifice the Passover to Yeshua your God from the flock and the herd in the place where he chooses to establish his name. You shall not eat leavened bread with it. 7 days you shall eat with it unleavened bread, the bread of affliction, for you came out of the land of Egypt in haste, in order that you may remember all the days of your life, the day when you came out of the land of Egypt. For 7 days no leaven shall be seen with you in all your territory, and none of the flesh which you sacrifice on the evening on the first day shall remain overnight until morning. You are not allowed to sacrifice the Passover in any of your gates, which Yeshua your God is giving you, but at the place where Yeshua your God chooses to establish his name. You shall sacrifice the Passover in the evening at sunset, at the time that you came out of Egypt. And you shall cook and eat in the place where Yeshua your God chooses. And in the morning you are to return to your tents. 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a solemn assembly to Yeshua your God. You shall do no work. And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yeshua, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slaves. You shall have no other gods before me. The end of Part 1. Part 2. Celebrating Passover today. Therefore, be on the alert, for you do not know which day your master is coming. But know this, that if the head of the house had known at what time of the night the thief was coming, he would have been on the alert and would not have allowed his house to be broken into. For this reason, you too be ready. For the Son of Man is coming at an hour when you do not think. There is one Passover. Now we remember as a memorial, and the future is the hope of our salvation. This night, as we remember, acknowledge, and look forward to the culmination of Yah's saving grace, we stand on the foundation of the prophet's shoulders in the firm defense of our faith in Master Yeshua the Messiah. The prophet who had faith to trust Jehovah the first Passover, Moses, was told a prophet greater than he would come. And he has. Yeshua. Hallelujah. In Exodus chapter 14, verse 30, we read, The Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. The Lord, Yehovah, saved. Yehovah saved Israel that day. Yasha is the root word to save, to deliver, savior, salvation. It occurs 205 times. It is a verb. Throughout the entirety of the Bible, salvation in some form of its root, Yasha, is in over 300 verses. Yesha means salvation. Yeshi means saving. In the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, the angel tells Yosef to call the name of the child Yeshua, for he will save his people, Yeshi. These two words specifically declare his name using a Hebrew idiom, which is easily missed in our English translations. Sadly, too many manuscripts have omitted the second half of the verse. Many names of the word begin with the name of Yehovah in the front and back of the name, Yah, Yeh, and of God, El, in the back of the name as well, Israel. Joshua, Yehoshua, is also a name that is used with the name Yehovah. Many people pronounce Yeshua as Yehoshua because the meanings are so close, and translators often equate the two, Jesus as Joshua and Joshua as Jesus, Yehoshua as Yeshua. The slight difference in translation may determine your personal choice. Yehoshua means Yehovah is salvation. Yeshua means Yehovah saves. We remember the Passover today because we have faith in Yeshua, pursuing the ways of Yehovah because we love the Father and follow his only beloved Son. Passover ushers in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is a time of personal, integral intimacy with the Father, to rid ourselves of the leaven in our lives. We all come before the Father with leaven from our culture, our family, our religious experiences, or non-experience. The Passover remembrance, with a simple meal, fellowship, and worship, ushers in the Feast of Unleavened Bread with the day of first fruits celebrated on the first Sunday following the first Sabbath. Today, we remember the first Passover. We solemnly remember the fulfillment of the Passover with gratitude and humility, the ultimate sacrifice in Yeshua. And in the fulfillment, we turn from the shame of our slavery with joy and gladness to his resurrection on the day of first fruits. Hallelujah! We renew our minds during the 7 feast days with the teachings of Yeshua, the entire Word, in hope that we unleaven our lives. Yeshua spoke in Matthew chapter 5, verse 20, "For I say to you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven." How do we do that? How do we surpass the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees? Yeshua answers and tells us in Matthew chapter 16, verses 1 through 12. "And the Pharisees and Sadducees came up and testing him asked him to show them a sign from heaven. But he answered and said to them, 'When it is evening, you say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, there will be a storm today, for the sky is red and threatening. Do you know how to discern the face of the sky, but cannot the signs of the time? An evil and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and a sign will not be given it, except the sign of Jonah.' And Yeshua said to them, his disciples, 'Watch out and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees.' And they began to discuss among themselves, saying, 'It is because we took no bread.' But Yeshua, aware of this, said, 'You men of little faith, why do you discuss among yourselves that you have no bread? Do you not yet understand or remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000 and how many baskets you took up? Or the 7 loaves of the 4,000 and how many large baskets you took up? How is it that you do not understand that I do not speak to you concerning bread? But beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees.' Then they understood that he did not say to be aware of the leaven of the bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees." 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 6 and 7. Paul speaks to us and says, "Your boasting is no good. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens the whole lump? Clean out the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, just as you are unleavened. For Messiah, our Passover, also has been sacrificed. Let us, therefore, celebrate the feast, not with old leaven, nor with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth." Yeshua says, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. If you had known me, you would have known my Father also. From now on, you know him and have seen him." for the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. We must choose daily to renew and transform our belief in Yeshua into an active, loving faith, culminating in faithfulness. The words belief, faith, believe, faithfulness, faithful, all have the same root word, aman. And he believed in Yehovah, and he counted it to him for righteousness. Yes, the first mention of being faithful is Avraham, for listening and obeying and doing as Yehovah asked of him. Paul shares it this way: I urge you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, to present your bodies a living and set-apart sacrifice acceptable to Yehovah, your spiritual service of worship. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what the will of Elohim is, that which is good and well-pleasing and complete. The first Passover required blood on the doorposts and lintels. That blood protected, covered, and saved the lives of those within. They believed, obeyed, and were faithful in their actions. The Passover fulfilled required the blood of Yeshua to cover our hearts, conquering the consequence of death due to sin, and covering any who believe and have faith in Yeshua, the hope of our salvation. Indeed, this ushered in and sanctified the promise of the new covenant, and now it is our journey to walk our belief into faithfulness. Habakkuk chapter 2, verses 2 through 4. Then Yehovah answered me and said, record the vision and inscribe on the tablets, that the one who reads it may run. For the vision is yet for the appointed time. It pants toward the goal, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it. For it will certainly come. It will not delay. Behold, as for the proud one, his soul is not right within him, but the righteous will live by his faith. Habakkuk ends chapter 3, verses 18 and 19. Yet I will exalt in Yehovah, I will rejoice in the Elohim of my salvation. The Master Yehovah is my strength, and he has made my feet like hinds, and makes me walk on my high places. And so we also can be satisfied, walking in the fullness of his strength through our Yeshua, our salvation. Our thirst quenched daily as we drink from the fountain of his word. Eat of the bread of life. Run our good race to the end. Hear, O Israel, Yehovah our Elohim, Yehovah is one. And you shall love Yehovah your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your sons, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontals on your forehead, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Shema Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad, Yehovah Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Bayed, Leolam Bayed. And I will love Yehovah with all my heart, and all my soul and mind. We will love Yehovah with all our hearts, and all our souls and minds. Shema Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad, Yehovah Echad. You shall not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yehovah. The end of part 2. Part 3. Passover, the Prophetic Significance. Now he, Yeshua, said to them, These are my words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that all things which are written about me in the Torah of Moshe and the prophets and Psalms must be fulfilled. Then he opened their minds to understand the Scriptures. Jeremiah chapter 23, verses 1 through 8. Woe to the shepherds who are destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture, declares Yehovah. Therefore, thus says Yehovah, Elohim of Israel, concerning the shepherds who are shepherding my people. You have scattered my flock, and driven them away, and have not attended to them. Behold, I am about to attend to you, for the evil of your deeds, declares Yehovah. Then I myself shall gather the remnant out of all the countries where I have driven them, and shall bring them back to their pasture. And they will be fruitful and multiply. I shall also raise up shepherds over them, and they will tend to them. And they will not be afraid any longer, nor be terrified, nor will any be missing, declares Yehovah. Behold, days are coming, declares Yehovah, when I shall raise up for David a righteous branch, and he will reign as king, and succeed wisely, and do justice and righteousness in the land. In his days Judah will be saved, and Israel will dwell securely. And this is his name by which he will be called, Yehovah our righteousness. Therefore, behold, days are coming, declares Yehovah, when they will no longer say, As Yehovah lives, who brought up the sons of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but, As Yehovah lives, who brought up and led back the seed of the household of Israel from the northland and from all the countries where I had driven them. Then they will live on their own soil. Isaiah chapter 11. Then it will happen on that day that the Master will again recover for the second time with his hand the remnant of his people who will remain, from Assyria, Egypt, Pathros, Cush, Elam, Shinar, Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he will lift up a banner for the nations, and will assemble the outcast ones of Israel, and gather the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. Behold, I will gather them out of the lands to which I have driven them in my anger, in my wrath, and in great indignation. And I will bring them back to this place, make them dwell in safety. And they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim. And I will give them one heart and one way, that they may fear me always, for their own good, and for their children after them. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them, that I will not turn away from them, to do them good. And I will put the fear of me in their hearts, so that they will not turn away from me. And I will rejoice over them, to do them good. And I will faithfully plant them in this land with all my heart and with all my soul. Jeremiah chapters 29 through 33. Behold, The days are coming, declares Jehovah, when I will fulfill the good word which I have spoken concerning the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah. In those days and at that time, I will cause a righteous branch of David to spring forth, and he shall execute justice and righteousness on the earth. In those days Yehudah shall be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell in safety. And this is by which she shall be called, Yehovah, our righteousness. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 through chapter 5 verse 2. But we do not want you to be uninformed, brethren, about those who are asleep, that you may not grieve, as do the rest who have no hope. For if we believe that Yeshua died and rose again, even so Elohim will bring with him those who have fallen asleep in Yeshua. For this we say to you by the word of Yehovah, that we are alive who remain, until the coming of the Master, shall not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Master himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of Yehovah, and the dead in Messiah shall rise first. Then we who are alive, who remain, shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Master in the air. And thus we shall always be with the Master. Therefore comfort one another with these words. Now as to the times and the epochs, brethren, you have no need of anything to be written to you, for you yourselves know full well that the day of Yehovah is coming like a thief in the night. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Now we request you, brethren, with regard to the coming of our Master Yeshua Messiah, and gathering together with him, that you may not be quickly shaken from your mind, or be disturbed either by a spirit of a word or a letter, as if from us, to the effect that the day of Yehovah has come. Let no one in any way deceive you, because it is not until first is the falling away from the faith, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of Elohim, displaying himself as being Elohim. Do you not remember that while I was still with you, I was telling you these things? And you know what restrains him now, so that in his time he may be revealed. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom Yehovah will slay with the breath of his mouth, and bring to an end by the appearance of his presence, and the one whose coming is in accord with the activity of Satan, with all power and signs and false wonders, and with every deception of wickedness for those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth so as to be saved. And for this reason, Yehovah will send upon them a deluding influence, so that they might believe the lie, in order that they all may be condemned, who did not believe the truth, but approved wickedness. But we should always give thanks to Elohim for you, brethren, beloved by the Master, because Elohim has chosen you, first fruits, for salvation through sanctification by the Spirit and faith in the truth. And it was for this he called you through our gospel, that you may gain the glory of our Master Yeshua Messiah. So then, brethren, stand firm and hold to the traditions which you were taught, whether by word or by letter of us. Now may our Master Yeshua Messiah himself and Elohim our Father, who has loved us and given us eternal comfort and good hope by grace, comfort and strengthen your hearts in every good work and word. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 20 through 26 and 50 through 53. But now Messiah has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who are asleep. For since by a man death, by a man also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, so also in Messiah all shall be made alive. By each in his own order. Messiah the first fruits, after that those who are Messiahs at his coming, then the end, when he delivers up the kingdom to Jehovah and Father, when he has abolished all rule and all authority and power. For he must reign until he has put all his enemies under his feet. The last enemy that will be abolished is death. Now I say this, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Elohim, nor does corruption inherit the incorruption. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For the corruption must put on the incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 13 through 21. Therefore gird your minds for action. Be sober. Fix your hope completely on the grace to be brought to you at the revelation of Yeshua Messiah. As children of obedience, do not be conformed to the former lusts in your ignorance, but like the Holy One who called you, be holy yourselves also in all behavior, because it is written, You shall be holy, for I am holy. And if you address as Father the one who impartially judges according to each man's work, conduct yourselves in fear during the time of your stay, knowing that you were not ransomed with perishable things like silver and gold from your futile way of life inherited from your forefathers, but with the precious blood, as of a lamb, unblemished and spotless, of Messiah. For he was foreknown before the foundation of the world, but has appeared in this last time for the sake of you, who through him are believers in Elohim, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are in Yehovah. Revelation chapter 5, verses 6 through 14. But one of the elders said to me, Do not weep. Look, the Lion who is from the family of Yehudah, from the root of David, has overcome to open the scroll and to break the 7 seals. Then I saw that amongst the throne and the living creatures and the 24 elders there stood a lamb, like he had been slain, and he had 7 horns and 7 eyes, and they are the 7 spirits of Jehovah sent into all the earth. And he came and took the scroll from the right hand of him who sat on the throne. And when he took the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, and in their hands were lyres and fire pans full of incense, and this is the prayer of the set-apart ones. And they sang a new song, and said, You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and bought us with your blood, and made us priests and kings, that we may be kings over the earth. Then I saw and heard many voices of the messengers around the throne, and their number was 20 million. And they said with a great voice, The Lamb who was slain is worthy of power and honor and glory and praises. And all the creations which are in the heavens and on the earth and under the sea and in the sea, I heard saying, To him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be honor and praises and lauding from everlasting and unto everlasting. The Lamb is mentioned in the revealing of Yeshua 25 times. The Lamb opens the seals. The wrath of the Lamb. The foundation of New Jerusalem has the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. No temple is needed because Yehovah El Shaddai and the Lamb are the temple. Glory of Yehovah lighten, and the Lamb is the light. River of life flows from the throne of Yehovah and the Lamb. No curse, and servants will serve the throne of Yehovah and the Lamb. Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 through 12. And there was a war in heaven, Michael and his angels raging war with the dragon. And the dragon and his angels raged war, and they were not strong enough, and there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Hasatan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, Now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our Elohim and the authority of his Messiah has come. For the accuser of our brethren has been thrown down, who accuses them before our Elohim day and night. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb, and because of the word of their testimony, and they did not love their life even to death. For this reason, rejoice, O heaven, and you who tabernacle in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he has a short time. Revelation chapter 20, verses 1 through 6. And I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the key of the abyss and a great chain upon his hand. And he laid hold of the dragon, the serpent of old, who is the evil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the abyss, and shut and sealed it over him, so that he should not deceive the nations any longer, until 1,000 years were completed. After these things he must be released for a short time. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given to them. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of the testimony of Yeshua and the word of Yehovah, and those who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received the mark upon their forehead and upon their hand. And they came to life, and reigned with Messiah for 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were completed. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is the one who has a part in the first resurrection. Over these the second death has no power, but they will be priests of Yehovah and of Messiah, and will reign with him for 1,000 years. Revelation chapter 22, verses 12 and 13. Behold, I am coming quickly, and my reward with me, to render to every man according to what he has done. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. The end of part 3. Passover, Pesach, a journey from belief into faithfulness. May Yehovah bless you and keep you. May Yehovah cause his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. May Yehovah bless you and keep you. May Jehovah lift up his countenance on you and give you peace. Yivarechecha Yehovah v'yishmerecha. Yair Yehovah panav elecha v'yonecha. Yisa Yehovah panav elecha v'yasim lecha. Shalom.